Bonjour les amis. This is Generator coming to you directly from the City of Light. I'm Jane Bertch, a Chicago native, Paris-based entrepreneur, author, and your partner in personal reinvention. I've spent the past 20 years living and working in Paris, and after leaving the corporate world and deciding to create something of my own, I've discovered both the beauty and the challenge of building a life shaped by curiosity, creativity, and a sprinkle of courage. In Season 2, we're going to dive deeper into the ideas that spark change. We're going to explore the small habits that shift our trajectories and the trajectories of those around us. We're going to rewrite some of that inner dialogue. We're going to lean into curiosity, and we're going to dare to reinvent ourselves at any stage of life. These are the practices that lead to true transformation. So whether you're planting a seed in your jardin secret, your secret garden, or giving voice to your creativity for the very first time, let's step into your next chapter with intention. And of course, with a touch of Parisian charm. So as we say in French, on y va, let's go. I am so thrilled today to welcome Davina MacPhail. She's an accomplished impact professional. She's most recently led a team in impact-focused startup accelerator in Canada, working to support angel investors and founders. She's managed a portfolio of companies and impact investment funds in Paris. Earlier in her career, she was a founding team of a performing arts social business in Cambodia, where she focused again on fundraising and investor relations. She's had an incredibly diverse career. Prior to that, she spent time in corporate banking in France, UK, Taiwan, and India. Spoiler, something there might ring a bell if you know my background. Davina and I actually worked together here in Paris many years ago in corporate banking. She's a native of France and a British binational. Davina is a keen believer in the power of community, and she thrives in spaces where she can bring people together. And I'm so thrilled to share with you that she's currently the founder of Naturally Connected, a company that's focused on taking investors and impact professionals into the great outdoors so they can discover their teams and reconnect with themselves in nature. In this episode, we talk about everything from finding yourself to French culture, particularly Davina's experiences being a French person that is now returning to Paris after many years, to some of the fun peculiarities we have in the North American language on what's your North Star or what's a role model. It's such a wonderful, rich discussion that I hope you enjoy. And in this discussion, we do a wonderful journey through the life that she's lived and the life that is ahead of her. It's an exciting one. The same type of excitement we can all have, no matter where we are or what we're doing. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy it. I am so thrilled to be here today with Davina MacPhail. I don't know if that name will ring a bell to any of you listening, but she is so dear to me because Davina is somebody from my past life. That's a word that we use so often, our past life or past lives. In this case, I've had a few, and I hope to have a few more. But I want to share this wonderful person with you that I met 18 years ago,
Yeah.
Davina.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Wow.
Doesn't make us any younger, right?
It doesn't.
Yeah.
So tell me about Davina, or tell my listeners about Davina. Give them just a few highlights. I think they'll hear from your accent that you are from France.
No, well, thank you so much, Jane. I mean, I've, of course, also shared feelings because staying in touch with people for so long is precious. My name is Davina. I currently live in Paris, but for the past 20 years, I've been traveling and living in many different countries. So I'm currently in my, what do we say, my home, but as I'll share a little bit more, my home has been in many places over the past 20 years. So I've lived in Asia, in Cambodia and Taiwan, and then in North America and also in London. So yeah, I've been navigating these different segments of life, and I like that you started with that also. Like, we have throughout our lives, we actually have all these different pieces of life, and so I'm always trying to be as present and in those moments of life, but also who I am is also navigating lots of transitions and different moments in life. And I think I'm the happiest when I get to make bridges between these different moments. So,
Interesting. Let's talk about that because it was with you not too long ago. You sat down in front of me at a cafe and you put down your journal. And I said, "What is this?" And you said it was your transitional object. And Paris is a beautiful transitional object in itself. And I think that's why so many people come here. And then you gave me the reflection about the 37 bridges we have in Paris and how those bridges and that transition is what gets you to the next version of Davina.
yeah, the transition object in itself is such a nugget. And like a lot of people journal, but for me, just a Moleskine diary where I write what I'm doing, that's also a great way to explore where you've been at some point and where you are at the moment. So just wanted to share a little bit more about the transition object.
I love that. So let's talk about that transition because also in that same discussion, we were talking about Jane. And you knew Jane when Jane worked in a bank, and you and I were in the same office together.
Yeah.
And then you knew Jane, who turned into this entrepreneur in France, which raised a few eyebrows to start a business.
Yeah. But who cares about that?
And now you know Jane that's embarking on another version of Jane and a new business. And one thing that you said to me that stuck with me is honoring all these things that you've been in the past to create the future version of you. And I thought that's so wise. And of course, because as are you. But tell me, what are the things that Davina has honored and decided to take through all these amazing countries you've lived in, through all these amazing careers you've had? How do you look and harvest every year to say, okay, that I'm taking with me, that I'm going to leave behind?
It's so funny how things look so obvious for people external to you and how you don't see it yourself necessarily, right? And so what you just shared, for me, it was like so clear. Wow, like all these things that you've done. And sometimes we just kind of take things for granted and we just did what we
Mhm.
did because that's what we had to do. The reason why I've been traveling to all these places, it's been part of it voluntary, but part of it also a bit imposed in the sense that my lovely husband has been posted on these different countries. And so we've moved as a family. And so it's a mix of constraints and opportunity, which, is life, right?
It absolutely is life.
But so I've always had the mindset of making the most out of what's given to you and being, as I was saying at the beginning, like being fully present, like fully engaged, has taught me lots about, of course, the places I've been, but also myself and who I am and how I am as I'm getting older. Finding deep down what you like, what you love, making the most out of opportunities. You have to have the energy for that. Especially as a
Right.
French person, we love to complain. So I've had to dig extra deep.
You said it. I didn't.
Yeah.
You said it. I didn't. We're going to get into that. I love that. Because you know what? The reality is, and I think this is something we all need to honor, is there is no real answer. And we're all finding our way. And how boring life would be if you already knew what to expect out of it. So we have a privilege every day to learn and be dazzled with surprises, some good, some bad. But I love that you used opportunities and constraints in the same sentence
Yeah.
because we forget that they're so harmonious, really, and they're how we learn and develop. So the things that are sometimes forced upon us, no matter where we are, we don't have to travel to Cambodia to learn about ourselves, but to appreciate that those constraints are such a part of the learning process. What has been your biggest constraint that has actually turned into the most rich learning experience?
Whenever I'm in a place, I'm fully engaged and I have my friends and I'm very community focused. My work, my colleagues are always so precious and important to me. So a big constraint is whenever we have to move. We, how to say,
Uproot, yeah.
uproot ourselves and not as necessarily, having the option to stay where we just started building those roots. It's hard, right? You feel like you're betraying a bit all the people that you've built kind of relationships with, and you know that you won't see them the same way. So that's the constraint, not being able to decide like fully, not to have full agency sometimes. Nobody has really like 100% agency on everything, but that's the constraint. So then the opportunity for me, it's the resets. I'm coming back to Paris after 4 years in Canada. It's an opportunity to do, okay, what have I learned in Canada? What can I bring now to France? Who do I want to hang out with?
Yes. Yes.
And do you want to make some changes there, which, could be uncomfortable if it was just a linear thing. But when there's a bit of a poof, like a cutoff, it makes it possible being who you actually want to be in the moment rather than dragging a banker persona. You can be whatever you want.
I love that. Hold that thought, because one thing I just want to point out that you said, which is so delicious, is the opportunity for the reset. And that can come after a high of something, and it can come after a low of something. But that's a beautiful point, to have the opportunity for a reset and to try, particularly in those low moments, and frankly, in those high moments, because once you get through something wonderful, the euphoria of it can die really quickly. And just to be able to reset yourself and focus on, okay, I'm pushing 0. Let's start again on something new, is really beautiful. So I want to talk about the Davina that I knew so many years ago. How is she different to the Davina I'm talking to today?
Oh, it's funny because honestly, I don't feel that different.
Really?
But I think that's something that people have told me about myself. You don't change, you stay the same person.
I see a totally different person.
Oh, yeah?
Totally different person. I see equal measures of incredibly whip smart intelligence.
Oh, thank you.
But what I do see, it's also maturity and age that we've both been through, is a self-assuredness, an extreme confidence, matched with a humility and grace. And that's a tough combo to pull off.
Oh my God, Jane, that's a lot.
But still, the badassness, when I last saw you, system day, basically getting ready to climb over a church fence, right? Because you came through the wrong way and you're like, what is this? And then I see you almost like you're behind bars in a prison getting ready to scale the fence.
For your listeners, that literally happened.
So I love that, because it wasn't that you had gone the wrong way. It's like, why is the fence here? And that is beautiful. But so that's the Davina that I've seen change. But I'd love to know, coming from France culturally, how have you seen yourself change and adapt versus your French brethren? Because you are very different.
No, and you're right. I think there are some changes and there is confidence that is being built. And I think having gone through lots of change and seeing that change is not that hard. I mean, you can change and you can do things. So that has brought a lot of confidence. And I think that's what you see also today. And I think, living in North America for someone French creates lots of questioning and turmoil, or I don't know, like, I mean, it's quite a powerful experience. I was hanging out also with French people there, and suddenly a new world is open to us and a new way of being becomes possible.
Tell me a bit about that. What is the new way of being?
Before going to Canada, I was living in Paris, working in Paris in a very kind of traditional work setting where, lots of hierarchy and men, women, power dynamics, where women are supposed not to be too loud. Coming from that kind of culture and work culture, I arrive in Canada and I joined this company, which is very innovative and different from what I was before. And the first thing that we do is dive super deep into our personality type in group settings and have to explain, have to
Things
share.
that would never happen in a French office, which I love.
I felt
Yeah.
completely naked, like suddenly having to share my personality and why I behave this way. And this was important. Like in France, this would have been like, kind of cynical attitude towards that type of exercise, but not in Canada. It was like, okay, this is what we're doing and this is going to be useful. So we're really doing it seriously. And so I learned so much about myself, my strengths, my weaknesses, and how I interact with others. I'd never cried so much doing it, and everybody else also. So there's kind of this vulnerability that is accepted and it is welcome, and people are thanking you for being so vulnerable. This doesn't happen in France. So
I want to talk about that for a second because coming here to work in a French office, my experience was limited. It was professional services here in Paris in a rather international on the surface, but very traditional setting in terms of hierarchy and what's accepted in the office and distance between you and the people that you work with, distance between you and your manager. How did you adjust when you're in a setting and then you're taken to another completely different setting? And of course, yes, there's a sense of vulnerability. But in hindsight, now reflecting on the two, reflecting on now all of these different versions that Davina has gotten to exercise of herself, what's come out of it today? What have you, particularly now that you're back in Paris, because that can be a really very hard transition to return to your home country with all these different experiences. And I ask that because sometimes I have that same just question mark when I go back to the US. Where is my home? What is home?
initially, you want to fit in, right?
Right.
The idea that you go to a place and that's very natural and you see kids doing it very easily. You just want to fit in. So you just change, right? Or you
Mhm.
adapt, or you just shut down yourself a little bit so that you can adapt to the setting because you want to integrate and be part of something. The difference now, coming back to Paris after being away for some time, I don't feel the need anymore to fit in, showing up a little bit more authentically myself and being myself in all the ways has become more important to me now than actually fitting in. I feel quite strongly about that because I think as women also we are, especially in France today, like fitting in, going with the flow. And it's true, it makes it easier to integrate, but at some point you lose a bit yourself. And I think showing up authentically now is kind of my big driver, I would say.
And you know what? I think that takes courage. I think that takes a lot of courage, particularly I love to be reflective about the French culture because I've known different versions of it. And the version that I started with you in that office in the 8th arrondissement was a very different version of the life that I live today. And even then, being a fish out of water very much in that circumstance, but still finding my feet, I now recognize I was able to do that because I leaned into my differences. I couldn't mask them. I couldn't not be the American with red hair in Paris. And to finally understand that that small difference would perhaps be my Superman cloak. That small thing that bothered me could perhaps be what saves me in the end was a big lesson.
And you're right, it takes courage.
It takes courage. Not to talk too much about the past, but that was a very particular, again, and I don't think that was a bad situation. Not at all. It was just the way it was. It was the way that organism operated. There was extreme distance between people. And it wasn't expected that you would know about your colleagues' personal lives, at least in my area. And it wasn't expected that you would be on a chummy pally relationship with your direct line manager. There was a hierarchy. And that was so very different from my past experiences, but so very useful because it did teach me a lot. And I'm so grateful for it.
The resilience that brings is a good lesson for the future. And, if you don't have any lows, you don't wear the highs.
Absolutely. So, speaking of the lows and highs, I wanted to talk about, and you said resilience for the future. Because what is the future? There's so many possibilities. And I love that. And I think, how can you possibly know what you want to do through your whole life? Isn't it wonderful to have it change and evolve?
Mm.
So, what is Davina's North Star? What is drawing you now after all these wonderful experiences that you've explored over the past years? What's calling to you now?
It's exciting. I mean, and it's also an interesting concept, the North Star. That's very North American also.
Okay, fair enough. Now, how would I express it? Oh my gosh, I had this discussion, Davina, not too long ago. I was struggling with my French friends. I was trying to express something like the North Star,
Yeah.
and they're like, we don't really have that.
Yeah.
It's like your purpose, your raison d'etre.
I think that's something you start early. That's
Yeah.
something that you're supposed to have a North Star and something that guides you. But in France, you need to be as good as possible in the things that you're doing. That's kind of how we guide our things. So the concept of the North Star and having a goal and kind of then putting everything you have in your power to make it happen. I love it, and something that I've adopted also. So thank you for asking the question because I feel very strongly about where I'm going now.
Yes, share.
I kind of figured out that my superpowers, also a fun concept, but my superpowers are in community building and getting people excited about a common goal is something that I love doing. And also kind of sales. So that's a little bit less exciting, but I mean, I'm good at sales and that's something I didn't really realize before.
And that's not French.
Yeah.
This is my opinion. You can challenge me, but sales is not something I've seen great in my French colleagues. It's
Yeah.
just an expectation. My service is so wonderful. Either you want it or you don't. Where did
Yeah.
you learn that? And what did you learn about sales?
There's like so many different types of salespeople, right?
Right.
Some just like more natural, some more pushy, some more trained, some more instinctive. So I think I belong in kind of those more instinctive sales types of people. Also, the types of sales where it's about kind of building partnerships. So finding what people actually want, what kind of pain point you're solving for them, and then kind of making things happen for them in the way that it's the most valuable and meaningful. And then, getting people to pay for that, right? I was working in a startup accelerator in Canada. It's a business model that just needs to be very agile and you need to constantly adapt to the market. So it's not like one sales tactic and that's it. I've learned through experience and being confronted with kind of very different types of clients and partners. It's such a human relationship, usually
Mm.
sales, community building and connecting with people is something I love so much. And that's also very North American mindset. Okay, you're good at something. Just keep doing it.
There's two things I love about that. One of which, nobody says they're good at sales. Nobody. And that's ridiculous. And I
Mm,
love that you leaned into that,
mm,
especially as a woman. So that's one. And number two, I think this is such a perfect example of blending two cultures because, in my experience of 20 years here doing business in France, 16 of which have been my own business, relationships are everything.
mm.
If you don't have that relationship, which is so hard to build, it often comes through an introduction of another relationship. If you don't have those, you're not getting anywhere or you're getting there very slowly. There's not any amount of money that you can throw at the French colleagues I know to get them to work with you. There's such a deep value of relationship because I think that exists in you. You've taken that beautiful thing and you've turned it into sales, which is what we call being a trusted advisor, theoretically. It's being able to create a bond with your client where you not only know their business as well as they do, but you can anticipate for them. That's a wonderful relationship.
Yeah, and I mean, I think in France also the way that it's done, it's always kind of so fun to watch. Is like you have to meet these people to build these
Yes.
relationships that
Oh,
will guide you to the thing. There's no rule book, and I think the North American transactional mindset doesn't really get these kind of
no.
struggles with that because it's like you have to go for coffees with people and actually spend an hour, right? It's not like a 15 minutes in and out. What do you want? What do I want? Bam, bam, bam. Like there, you have to kind of waste a bit of time.
If I have a series of meetings by 2 p.m., I am so like souped up on caffeine because I know that I've had to sit and have a coffee and be present, I'm very happy to see them. And when they say, "Would you like a coffee?" I've never turned it down. It's just that act. And we may not even discuss the matter at hand. We'll come back to it. That's not what matters. And I love that and I appreciate that. And I think that's why you're so successful at sales. And I think that's a beautiful lesson for anyone anywhere is being the trusted advisor. Those are sticky relationships for anybody that's in sales, I think, no matter where you are. If your client is afraid to leave you because they know you know your business as well as they do,
Mm,
that's a wonderful sticky relationship to
yeah.
have.
So my North Star, I've always wanted to be my own boss, and I've had wonderful relationship with my bosses, but I feel like now it's my time to call the shots. I'm building a company to take people outside more. I feel like we're spending too much time in front of our computers, and so I've kind of been experimenting with different types of models, and so yeah, I'm excited to share this soon with the
I
world.
will be
And
sharing it
yeah,
with the world too. I'm
yeah.
so excited for this endeavor. So, everybody, stay tuned on all these fabulous things that Davina is doing. You will definitely want to know more. I find it so super exciting, especially again, having the privilege of time, of knowing this Davina that I saw in an office here so many years ago, now to become the boss. So, the last thing I want to wrap this fabulous discussion up with is role model. So, just as a spoiler for those listening, Davina and I had a quick chat about role models. Again, another very US concept, perhaps. So, I'm going to define what I think a role model is, but you take whatever path you want to with this. There's three elements I think that are in your professional lives, one of which is a mentor. That's the person you speak with, who you can sit down and share your ideas with, and they guide you. That's very important. The second one, I think, and if you're lucky, you get these ever so often, is a sponsor. And that's the person that you may not have a relationship with, but they sense and see who you are, and they are like a puppet master. They say, I see Davina's really great, put her here. They help create opportunities for you, even if you're not directly involved. And then a role model. So to me, role models, Davina, are so important. It's like the psychological view of your future self. You can look at people and say, and you can cherry pick. Some of my role models are males, some are females, some are alive, some are not. And I look at what I love about them and I sit with that because to me, it tells me who I want to be one day. Maybe they are in a version of my North Star. I love this person. And why? Because maybe I'd love to do that. So, who are the role models that you think have influenced you to now? Who are the things that the people that you've seen walk into a room or give a talk or you've interacted with that have left a little something with you that you carry onwards today?
Thank you. And thank you for clarifying these three different roles. I think that's very useful and you did it very well. And I actually remember my job interview when I arrived in Canada and they asked me, oh, do you have any mentors? And I was like, what is that? But yeah. And so role model, I think I've had several, depending on what stage in life I've been in.
Sure.
I've have different role models. Two people that come up to mind when you say that, and both of them are in Vancouver. One is Irene, a lady who has built a community of women investors in Canada. She has a full-time job and is doing something completely unrelated to angel investing, but she's kind of spent lots of energy in building that community, and it's an amazing and beautiful community now. I think she's pretty badass, and I would love to be where she's at in a few years. And then another one is an entrepreneur, an exited
Okay.
entrepreneur who's been super successful. But a while ago, a French lady who then came to live in Vancouver, Marie-Jeanne, yeah, she's massive success with cosmetic retail and exited really well and then did other things. I like her blend of the French and North American kind of attitude and the fact that, yeah, sometimes things are a huge success, sometimes not. But, it doesn't mean that you yourself didn't succeed. Um,
Exactly. What a beautiful thing to just all of us sit with for a second. The success is always you, the fact that you pushed forward. It's not the object. because I've had my share of things that just didn't work.
Eh.
And that's soul destroying, but you move on because you must know that the success is that you tried,
Yeah.
that you did it.
100%. Yeah.
So on that note, Davina, thank you so much for joining today. It's such a pleasure to see you in this capacity.
No, thank you for having me. It was super fun.
Davina reminds me of a comment that I said to her many years ago. Maybe we will yet be saving lives.
That would be extra bonus, right?
One day.
Yeah.
One day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Generate Her. If something sparked your curiosity or took root in your imagination or helped you to see possibilities just a tad bit clearly, I'd love to hear about it. Don't forget you can always connect with me via my website, janebertch.com, or on Instagram. My handle is my name, @JaneBertch. And if you'd like to go deeper, don't forget to check out my newsletter, Prompts from Paris, my retreats here in the city, journal prompts, and more that you can find on my website. Until the next time, may you keep tending your jardin, listening to your inner courage, and shining brightly right where you are. À très bientôt, mes amis.